October 17th, 1943, Camp Aliceville, Alabama. At 2:47 a.m., the mess kit trembled in his thin hands as the German prisoner looked at his first American meal. For 3 years in the Afrika Korps, he had lived on sawdust bread and coffee. Weighing just 128 pounds, he now faced scrambled eggs, bacon, white bread with butter, and real coffee with sugar and cream. It was more food than he had seen in months. When I was captured, I weighed 128 pounds. After 2 years as an American prisoner, I weighed 185 pounds. I'd gained so much weight that my eyes were no longer visible. This 57-pound gain, noted by a German prisoner, would be seen in thousands of American prisoner camps during World War II. While their comrades on the Eastern Front survived on frozen horse meat and received little food, these prisoners enjoyed ample American meals. They received the same rations as United States garrison troops as required by the Geneva Convention. Over 425,000 German prisoners lived in camps across the United States. They witnessed and experienced a prosperity that would not only reshape their bodies, but also change their perceptions of American capability and democracy. When the Afrika Korps surrendered in Tunisia in May 1943, medical examinations revealed an army in complete decline. After months of poor supplies and harsh desert warfare, soldiers who had once been the elite of the Wehrmacht had become walking skeletons. The official Wehrmacht field ration promised substantial calories for combat troops. By winter 1942, they received only a fraction of that. Their daily ration often consisted of hard bread when available. This was frequently replaced with weevil-infested hardtack. For breakfast, they had ersatz coffee, made from roasted acorns, sweetened with saccharin. Lunchtime meant small portions of tinned meat, typically horse or mule, extended with sawdust. Dinner brought durum wheat, dehydrated vegetables that expanded in the stomach but offered little nutrition. Dr. James Patterson from the United States Army Medical Corps examined German prisoners at the Oran Processing Center in May 1943. His report highlighted widespread malnutrition, including vitamin deficiency diseases, cases of scurvy, night blindness due to a lack of vitamin A, and edema from protein deficiency among the captured soldiers. Recovery started immediately on Liberty ships heading to America. These ships, built at remarkable rates during the war, transported up to 30,000 prisoners monthly. The first meal at sea was beef. The stew with potatoes, white bread, butter, and coffee with milk far exceeded a week's ration in Africa. Many prisoners became ill from the richness of the food. Their stomachs struggled to handle the fats after enduring months of starvation. The difference was shocking even to American medical officers. Lieutenant Colonel Harrison Matthews, while watching prisoners board at Orrorin, remarked, "These men looked like walking cadavers. They had hollow cheeks and protruding ribs, and many needed help to climb the gangplanks. We had to start feeding them slowly. They couldn't handle regular food right away." According to Article 11 of the 1929 Geneva Convention, the food rations for prisoners of war must be similar in quantity and quality to that of depot troops. For the United States, this was not just about following the rules. It was a strategic approach. Colonel Edward Davidson stated in a memo from September 1943, "Every well-fed German prisoner serves as potential insurance for American prisoners held by the Germans." The Office of the Provost Marshal General managed this extensive operation, creating detailed records of daily caloric intake, weekly menus, medical checkups, and weight changes. The level of organization was immense. Forms were submitted bi-monthly from each camp, with inspections by Swiss delegates and monitoring from the Red Cross to ensure compliance. The standard garrison ration provided substantial daily portions to each prisoner. They received meat, bread, potatoes, cheese, butter, milk, unlimited real coffee, along with fresh vegetables and fruit. The total estimated caloric intake was between 3,000 and 4,000 calories each day, with additional items available for purchase. German prisoners of war could buy cigarettes, chocolate, beer, wine, soft drinks, and ice cream with script they earned from work or through Geneva Convention allowances. The feeding program required massive logistics. Camp quartermasters had to order food for thousands every day, coordinating with regional suppliers, managing refrigerated storage, and ensuring that kitchens operated around the clock. This effort was on a scale greater than anything the German military had tried, providing better food for enemies than for their own soldiers. One German prisoner later recalled gaining 57 pounds in 2 years while in captivity. He vividly described his experience, saying, "When I was captured, I weighed 128 pounds. After 2 years as an American prisoner, I weighed 185. I had gotten so fat you couldn't." Georg Gartner, a sergeant in RML's forces, was captured in Tunisia in 1943. He became known as Hitler's last soldier in America after escaping from Camp Deming in New Mexico in September 1945. For 40 years, he lived under the name Dennis Wiles before surrendering in 1985. In a memoir he co-authored with historian Arnold Kramer, Gartner described how prisoners of war were astonished by their treatment. They received abundant meals that their own country could not provide. Military chaplain Alex Funker, who was imprisoned at Camp Alona in Iowa, expressed, "We all were positively impressed by the United States, and we developed friendly relations with them." His post-war research showed significant weight gains among his fellow prisoners. Many men gained between 40 and 60 pounds during their time in captivity. The changes in their appearance were so striking that repatriation officers noted some prisoners were unrecognizable to their families. Captain William Burke, who processed returning prisoners of war in 1946, remarked, "These men left looking like professional athletes or successful businessmen, not defeated soldiers. Their families expected to see skeletons, but they got men who looked prosperous." Camp Concordia in Kansas housed around 4,000 Germans spread across hundreds of buildings on 640 acres. The camp offered an extensive educational program with many subjects, collaborating with regional universities. Its kitchens fed thousands daily, equipped with modern electric ranges, walk-in refrigerators, industrial mixers, and mechanical dishwashers. Many prisoners had never encountered such technology before. The camp's infrastructure showcased American organizational skills. Built in just 90 days, it included electric lighting, hot water systems, flush toilets, and central heating. Prisoners from rural Germany, who were used to outhouses and oil lamps, found themselves enjoying comforts they had never known. Camp Hearn in Texas, affectionately nicknamed the Fritz Ritz by locals, accommodated up to 5,000 prisoners who created elaborate recreational facilities. The campsite industrial kitchens operated around the clock. Central bakeries churned out thousands of loaves of bread every day. Prisoners set up regional mess halls that served various German dishes made with American ingredients, trying to recreate the meals they missed from their homeland. Colonel Donald Drake, the camp's commanding officer, introduced a system he called Calories for Cooperation. Well-behaved prisoners received additional rations, special meals, and access to the commissary. This led to very few discipline issues and significant weight gains. Reports from Drake indicated that each prisoner gained an average of 45 pounds over 18 months. Camp Aliceville in Alabama managed the recovery of prisoners from the desert wars with great efficiency. And Coco and Sundize, Adiz and Topala. Commanders observed the skeletal arrivals and implemented gradual feeding methods. The camp's medical team documented incredible recoveries. Vitamin deficiencies were corrected, dental problems were treated, and energy was restored. Within a few months, sunken faces filled out and chronic illnesses vanished. Major Robert Harrison, the medical officer at the camp, published a study after the war highlighting the recovery trends. His findings revealed that prisoners experienced rapid weight gain in the first 3 months, followed by steady increases of around 2 to 3 pounds each month afterward. One of the most remarkable cases was a prisoner who arrived weighing 109 pounds, an increase of 72 pounds. Camp Papago Park in Arizona housed naval personnel who did not have to work. They spent their days relaxing, watching movies, reading, and tending to gardens. The camp became known for the December 1944 escape of 25 officers who dug a tunnel, planning to float down the Salt River to Mexico. However, they found the river was Dr. Y, were quickly recaptured, with some surrendering due to hunger. Even the desert provided less food than what they received in the camp kitchens. The difference between prisoner treatment and civilian rationing sparked significant public outrage. While German prisoners enjoyed military rations, American families struggled with complicated rationing systems and shortages. Items like sugar, coffee, meat, and butter were restricted for civilians, while prisoners received unlimited amounts of these products daily. Dorothy Mitchell from Topeka wrote to her congressman in 1944, expressing her frustration. She said, "My 3 sons are fighting in Europe while German prisoners here eat steak twice a week. I haven't seen steak since Pearl Harbor. My family's monthly meat ration is less than what these Nazis eat in 3 days. How do you explain this to a mother?" The government's reply focused on reciprocity. They asserted that treating German prisoners humanely protected American prisoners. Propaganda posters aimed at American soldiers stated, "Their good treatment ensures ours." Radio broadcasts highlighted that 90,000 American prisoners relied on German adherence to the Geneva Guidelines. However, public resentment continued to grow, especially when prisoners worked on local farms and consumed better food than the farmers who employed them. The racial aspects of the situation were particularly charged. Black American soldiers, like Rhett Trimmingham, pointed out that German prisoners could eat at restaurants that excluded them. Trimmingham's well-known letter to Yank magazine detailed how he saw German prisoners served in a Texas restaurant. Meanwhile, he, dressed in military uniform and adorned with combat ribbons, was sent to the kitchen door to get takeout. This painful irony, where enemy soldiers received better treatment than American citizens serving their country, left deep scars. The German prisoners often felt uneasy about the inequality, even as they enjoyed the privileges. Several camp newspapers created by the prisoners published articles questioning America's segregation. It was odd to see Nazi soldiers assessing American racial policies. The prisoner labor program was essential for American agriculture and played a big role in the weight gain of the prisoners. By 1944, more than 300,000 prisoners worked in American fields, harvesting crops that fed both America and its allies. The program brought in millions of dollars while offering prisoners extra nutrition on top of their camp rations. Farmers who needed workers were eager to treat the prisoner work crews well. Mornings started with hearty farm breakfasts, including eggs, bacon, pancakes, and coffee. At noon, hot meals were delivered to the fields, featuring fried chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, and pie. Afternoons brought cold drinks and snacks. Evenings returned the prisoners to camp for another complete meal. All of this combined often added up to more than 5,000 calories a day. In the sugar beet fields of Nebraska, the prisoners saw machinery that changed their view of farming. Hans Dietrich, working near Scottsbluff, remarked, "One American farmer with machines does what required our entire village. A combine harvester processes more grain in an hour than we could collect by hand in a week." In Texas, cotton operations hired thousands of prisoners during harvest time. The work was tough under the blazing sun, but the rewards included unlimited water, regular meal breaks, and extra food for those who worked hard. Wilhelm Hartmann, picking cotton near Killeen, gained 63 pounds in just 14 months. He said, "The Texas farmers fed us like prize cattle." One rancher remarked, "You can't get good work from hungry men. If only our leaders had understood this." In California's Central Valley, the ultimate irony unfolded. Prisoners picked peaches, apricots, and oranges, freely eating as they worked. They watched perfectly good fruit being bulldozed into pits when it was discarded. Markets were oversupplied. Kurt Vogel said, "Mountains of oranges were destroyed while my family lived on turnips. I pleaded to send them to Germany." The farmer explained, "It was economically impossible. This waste amid abundance shattered my understanding of the world." Military medical officers carefully tracked the biological changes. Major Thomas Richardson's of the chief medical officer for the 8th Service Command, collected statistics from 50,000 examinations conducted between 1943 and 1946. His findings revealed patterns that would shape nutrition science after the war. The recovery trajectory followed predictable phases. During the first month, there was an adjustment in the digestive system, with minimal weight gain as bodies learned to process fats and proteins again. In the second month, rapid weight gain occurred as systems normalized, averaging 8 to 10 pounds. From months 3 to 6, there were steady increases of 3 to 4 pounds monthly. After 6 months, gains slowed but continued, with most prisoners adding a total of 40 to 60 pounds. Health improvements paralleled these weight increases. Vitamin deficiencies vanished within 90 days. Cases of scurvy recovered completely. Night blindness resolved, and dental health improved significantly after treatment. Over 400,000 dental procedures were performed on German prisoners of war. ranging from extractions to complex bridge work. Many prisoners received better dental care than they had ever experienced in their lives. German doctors, raking in camp hospitals, reported unexpected issues, experiences of abundance rather than deprivation. Dr. Friedrich Hoffmann at Camp Benner noted, "We see diabetes emerging in men who survived on 1,000 calories. Note, hypertension in soldiers who had low blood pressure from malnutrition, gout from rich foods. These are diseases of prosperity showing up in former prisoners of starvation." The psychological impact mirrored these physical changes. Camp psychiatrists observed widespread guilt about gaining weight, while families back home were starving. Captain James Murray documented what he called prosperity trauma, the mental distress felt from improving health while suffering continued in their homeland. Prisoners felt ashamed of their appearance, anxious about explaining their condition to their families, and guilty about enjoying meals while Germany faced collapse. Christmas in 1944 highlighted the stark contrast between American abundance and German poverty. While the Battle of the Bulge raged on and German civilians received turnip rations, American camps served holiday feasts that surpassed anything prisoners had experienced even before the war. Camp menus from December reflected this remarkable disparity. From the 24th to the 25th of 1944, military archives recorded remarkable meals served in the camps. Each man received an average of 1.5 pounds of roast turkey, along with glazed ham topped with pineapple. There were mashed potatoes rich with butter and cream, sweet potato casserole, and green bean casserole. Cranberry sauce and freshly baked rolls accompanied multiple kinds of pie and ice cream. Officers enjoyed eggnog, and there was unlimited coffee and cocoa available. Churches and local civic groups contributed generously beyond the official rations. The Methodist women from Hearne, Texas, sent 2,000 homemade cookies to Camp Hearne. The Lutheran congregation of Concordia provided hand-knitted scarves for every prisoner. Even communities facing their own rationing shared their supplies with enemy prisoners. This act of American generosity baffled many inmates. Feldwebel Richard Steinberg described the situation. He noted they sat down to a feast while their families in Germany had nothing. Men wept, not out of happiness, but from the burden of the contrast. They questioned how they could celebrate while their country starved. They also pondered how to decline kindness shown by their captors. They ate in silence, each bite feeling like both a betrayal and a blessing. Despite the exceptional treatment, attempts to escape remained quite low. Only 2,222 escape attempts occurred among 425,000 prisoners, with virtually no lasting successes except for Georg Gartner. This represented an attempt rate of just 0.5%, the lowest of any major prisoner population in modern warfare. The reason was evident: the camps provided better living conditions than freedom outside. The remarkable Papago escape demonstrated this futility. 25 submarine officers spent months digging a 178-foot tunnel using spoons. They hid the dirt in a volleyball court that they had convinced the guards to let them build. Their plan to float down the Salt River to Mexico failed right away because the river was dry. Within 3 weeks, all were recaptured, and most surrendered willingly when hunger set in. Captain Jürgen Württemberg, the leader of the escape attempt, reflected years later. He said they were ideological fools. Inside the camp, they had food, shelter, safety, and even entertainment. Outside, they faced a desert, hostility, and certain capture. They risked everything to escape from a paradise into a hell that made no logical sense. It only made sense ideologically, and ideology does not fill empty stomachs. Most prisoners understood the reality they faced. Where could they go? How could they survive? Speaking limited English with German accents, they had no documents or money in a vast country where everyone was on the lookout for escapees. The practical challenges were overwhelming. More importantly, staying in the camp meant survival. Escaping meant a return to combat if they succeeded, or facing starvation if they did not. Prisoners of war working near factories witnessed production that shattered their views on industrial capabilities. At the Campbell Soup facilities, they saw production lines processing more food every hour than German factories could manage in a day. Near the Willow Run plant in Detroit, they observed B-24 bombers coming off the assembly lines every 63 minutes, faster than Germany's output of training aircraft. This realization had a devastating psychological effect. Otterly, an engineer from Crow, worked near a steel mill producing 10,000 tons each day. It became clear to him that this conflict was not merely between armies, but between industrial systems. They could lose 10 tanks for every one they destroyed and still emerge victorious. The math ensured our defeat was unavoidable. Regardless of our bravery or tactics, the agricultural productivity was just as astonishing. American farms produced twice as much per acre compared to German farms, using only a quarter of the labor. Mechanization allowed individual farmers to cultivate land that would require many workers in Germany. Irrigation, fertilization, and hybrid seeds led to harvests that seemed miraculous to those from subsistence farms. This excess particularly impacted the prisoners. They saw mountains of potatoes rotting due to overproduction. Inn was burned to keep prices stable. Milk was poured down the sewers when demand dropped. Franz Müller wrote that food was destroyed to stabilize markets while Europe starved. Only a nation with unlimited resources could sustain such waste. We finally grasped American power, not through their military, but through their abundance. Between 1945 and 1946, ships transported over 370,000 German prisoners of war back to Europe. They left America having gained millions of pounds collectively. They were living symbols of American prosperity returning to their war-torn homelands. The contrast was tragic on many levels. Returning prisoners found destroyed cities, starving families, and social tensions. Their healthy appearances marked them as different, as privileged, and somehow complicit with the enemy. Families struggled to understand how they had gained weight while in captivity. While Germany faced starvation, communities resented their prosperity in a time of widespread poverty. The physical turnaround was swift and harsh. Military government surveys tracked former prisoners losing between 30 to 50 pounds within 6 months of returning. Bodies accustomed to American rations could not endure on the scamped provisions available in Germany, requiring only 1,550 calories a day, if they were lucky. Often much less, the American weight faded away, leaving men who appeared older than when they were captured despite the comforts of captivity. Heinrich Weber returned to Hamburg, weighing 186 pounds, a significant increase from 134 at the time of his capture. 6 months later, he dropped down to 138 pounds. He explained that the American body could not thrive on German rations. He shared his food with his children and survived on potato pea, eels, and stolen grain. He believed it was better to face continuous hunger than to experience fullness and then lose it. Beyond mere sustenance, the camps offered a wide-ranging education that would impact post-war Germany. Over 50,000 prisoners enrolled in classes covering topics from agriculture to philosophy. Camp Concordia alone provided 300 subjects, with professors from nearby universities instructing on everything from American history to automotive repair. The curriculum intentionally included democratic governance, free market economics, and constitutional law, subjects that were prohibited in Nazi Germany. Prisoners studied the Federalist Papers, Adam Smith, and John Stuart Mill. They engaged in debates about governance models, economic principles, and social contracts. This intellectual nourishment complemented their physical needs, expanding their minds while strengthening their bodies. Camp newspapers transformed from tools of propaganda to platforms for democratic discussion. Der Ruf, the call circulated among 25,000 prisoners. It published debates about Germany's future, the merits of democracy, and economic rebuilding. Its transition from a Nazi mouthpiece to a democratic voice mirrored the ideological evolution of its readers. Wilhelm von Braun, who taught physics at Camp Shelby while imprisoned, remarked that they enjoyed better facilities than many German universities. They had access to laboratory equipment, textbooks, and academic freedom. Jewish professors who fled Germany taught alongside them without animosity. This generosity in sharing knowledge, even with former enemies, showcased American confidence in their system. The Special Project Division's secret re-education program achieved impressive success by focusing on demonstration instead of indoctrination. By 1945, 25,000 prisoners had willingly enrolled in democracy courses. They studied documents that were banned in Germany and discussed ideas that could lead to severe punishment under Nazi rule. This program thrived because it relied on evidence instead of propaganda. Prisoners witnessed democracy in action every day. They experienced free speech in camp newspapers and saw racial issues openly debated in American media. Self-criticism was impossible in totalitarian regimes. Every pound they gained carried deeper significance. Former German soldiers became evidence that democracy fosters prosperity. Ex-officers from the Wehrmacht, who had once pledged allegiance to Adolf Hitler, started to envision democratic rebuilding. Colonel Hans von Luck, who had served in Poland, France, and Africa, observed, "We arrived as committed Nazis. We left as hesitant Democrats, not because of brainwashing, but from what we saw. Their system was effective. Ours had failed. The proof was in our increasing waistlines. Around 5,000 former prisoners of war eventually moved to the United States, becoming citizens of the country that had once held them captive. Many kept in touch with American families for years. These relationships, formed under extraordinary circumstances, built surprising connections between former foes. The process of immigration was challenging. Former prisoners of war faced skepticism in Germany as potential sympathizers of America and suspicion in America as former adversaries. Yet many continued to push forward, motivated by memories of opportunity and prosperity. They settled across the United States, such as Hans Weyer, who became a doctor in Maine, and Georg Gartner, who skillfully avoided detection for 40 years. Marriage created the strongest ties. Even though regulations prohibited friendships, romantic connections blossomed through letters and work programs. More than 1,000 former German prisoners of war married American women they met during or shortly after their captivity. These families represented reconciliation, with former enemies united through love instead of conquest. A reunion in Austin in 1985 attracted 500 former prisoners returning with their American-born children and grandchildren. Hanske gave the keynote speech. He said, "We came as enemies, we left as friends. We arrived hungry, we departed overweight. Every pound added was a lesson in how productive democracy can be." Each meal was a clear illustration of the benefits of freedom. The economics of the prisoner of war program challenged traditional views of warfare. While it cost hundreds of millions of dollars, it produced nearly equal value in agricultural and industrial work, essentially paying for itself while offering significant strategic advantages. Each well-fed former prisoner became unintended proof of American strength. Their increased weight demonstrated American capability. The program accomplished multiple goals at once. It protected American prisoners of war through mutual respect. Germany treated American prisoners better than Soviet ones, partly due to how Americans treated Germans. It also helped solve labor shortages, as prisoners of war harvested crops that fed both America and its allies. Importantly, it changed enemies into potential allies by showcasing prosperity. Post-war analysis showed how impactful the program was for Germany's recovery. Former prisoners of war adopted American farming techniques. This boosted German crop yields by 30% in just 5 years. They also brought American management practices, which played a key role in driving Germany's economic miracle. Their experiences shaped a new generation of German leaders who favored cooperation with America over Soviet influence. Colonel J. End quote. Ams Patterson's analysis in 1947 stated that America purchased future peace with present food. The collective weight gain totaling millions of pounds symbolized American agricultural surplus turned into political leverage that benefited the country during the Cold War. The German prisoners of war, who gained over 50 pounds in American camps, highlighted a significant irony of World War II. While their homeland struggled with hunger, they thrived. As their families waited in line for turnips, they had the luxury of choosing from various dishes. While their comrades faced death on the Eastern Front, they enjoyed movies and played soccer. This strange reality, where enemies ate better than allies, was a strategic masterpiece. Their physical growth was a powerful testament. America could afford to be generous even amidst total war. Democracy had the capacity to nourish even its adversaries. Freedom produced abundance, while tyranny led to scarcity. The 57 pounds gained by one prisoner reflected a pattern seen thousands of times. Each gained pound served as evidence of America's agricultural and industrial dominance. Ultimately, America's most powerful weapon wasn't its armies or arsenal, but its dinner tables large enough to feed enemies, generous enough to turn warriors into witnesses, and abundant enough to create lasting peace through temporary plenty. The German prisoners of war realized their true adversary was not America, but the ideology that drove them to fight against such prosperity. Every pound gained represented a loss for Nazi ideology. Every meal was a lesson in democratic productivity. Every satisfied belly showcased freedom's ability to create rather than destroy. They returned to Germany heavier in body, yet enlightened in spirit, carrying within them the promise of reconciliation and the memory of a nation general. It's enough to feed even those who came to destroy it.